All right. A very good Saturday morning to everybody out there. Welcome to another edition of A Pilot's Life here live on Twitch with Captain Nabs. And as you can see here, we have still got our trusty American Airlines A320 parked here this morning at Des Moines in Iowa. So we are right in the American heartland today, and we are going to fly from this relatively small airport in Des Moines, Iowa, back to the major hub of DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth. About, what is that, probably about 700 miles, I think, almost straight south from here. And yeah, we're going to take a load of happy passengers there, where they're going to probably connect with something bigger and better for the rest of the world. And yeah, we're going to get the joy of taking them there. So welcome aboard, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great week. I apologize that I have not been online a little bit more, but it's been a very busy couple of weeks with work. Especially, I've been working night shifts, and it makes me first of all very tired. It also just kills pretty much my entire life. I pretty much come home and I sleep all day. I get up for like 3 hours, and then I get up for 3 hours, and then I go back to work again. So it kills my entire week when I'm working nights, and unfortunately this next week I'm working nights as well, because I know that a lot of you guys out there enjoy those VATSIM ATC streams. I enjoy doing them. I just literally have not had the time. Certainly not the time where I feel conscious and smart enough to be able to actually run an ATC operation, which is a bit of a shame, because there's some interesting stuff going on in Toronto this summer. There's construction going on in Toronto that is really just throwing a big wrench in the way the airport normally works, repaving an entire runway, and I'll talk about that the next time I get on a VATSIM ATC stream. But it's definitely creating an interesting challenge for ATC to try and manage the operation around these large number of surface closures around Toronto this year. So next time I get an ATC stream, I'm going to try and do Toronto, and we're going to talk about them and try and work around them. But in the meantime, today we are here to go and fly. The other thing I wanted to just say before I got started as well here this morning is last week, or about 2 weeks ago, and I meant to mention this in my stream last week and I completely forgot, my channel on YouTube surpassed a milestone. We actually reached 2,000 subscribers last week, and I know in the grand scheme of YouTube that's not that much, but I think for me that's pretty impressive. Anyways, I never thought I would get more than a couple dozen subscribers at the most. A number of people that are interested in the channel, interested in what I have to share, it surprises me and continues to surprise me to this day. And I'm glad that I'm sharing information and that's useful to people. I'm going to try and continue to do it as long as people are interested in watching it out there. So thank you everyone on my YouTube channel, which I know a lot of you on my Twitch channel as well are also YouTube subscribers as well. So thank you guys all for supporting my channel, because without you guys I wouldn't bother to do it. It just I do it because I think the community gets something out of it. Otherwise, I'd just fly by myself, and that would be probably be a little bit more boring, but probably a lot less pressure than the Twitch live streaming environment. But regardless, yeah, we've got a flight to do today. We got to get it underway. Just a quick recap of my pilot's life status, but here we are today. With our next flight of Des Moines, Iowa to Dallas-Fort Worth. And then from there, the next 3 legs are going to be interesting, and they're going to be long. After this, we go from DFW up to JFK, from JFK all the way across the country to LAX, and then from LAX down to DFW. So this JFK to LAX, we're looking at a good like 6-hour plus flight. So that's going to be a long one. I can't wait to kind of get that one done, and it's a pity that we're not doing the long one today, because I got a lot of stuff to talk about once we get going here as well. So yeah, not much else has happened in a pilot's life. As was mentioned before, they are working on version 2, and there are some messages here. They were looking for some beta testers to test version 2. I just don't have the time. I would love to do it. I think I could offer some interesting insights, but like I said, I really feel like I just do not have the time to be dealing with that. It's just one more thing. I'd love to deal with it. I'd love to be a beta tester. I think it'd be tons of fun, but I just can't justify the time. I'm so hard pressed sometimes. As another person in this hobby said if I had 10-hour work weeks and 30-hour days, and I could probably get everything done that I would like to get done, but it just never seems to have enough time. Never seems to happen. So yeah, so we're gonna hop in and get this flight done, and we're gonna do some chatting along the way about some interesting stuff. And of course, if anybody has any questions, anything at any point, please let me know. Otherwise, we will get this show on the road this morning. All right, we'll hop in the flight deck here, and before I do anything else, let's fire up that FS2 crew because I'm just not ready here. I apologize that I was a few minutes late starting the stream this morning. I think 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock was a little bit ambitious, honestly. For something that's supposed to be a hobby, like, and it's funny, like, this is a hobby where we often torture ourselves and get up like ridiculously early to do things, to perform in events and whatnot. I just don't see myself as being willing to get up any earlier than about 7:45 to get up and do a stream voluntarily. I get up early if I have to for work and whatever else, but just to come in and do a hobby, it just it's not something I'm probably gonna do. So I may defer that back to 9:30 starts. I think the 9 o'clock was a little bit overly ambitious. The other thing too is that I do have a few things I have to do this afternoon, including going to work eventually. So I was kind of a little bit obligated to get this going in a reasonable amount of time. So, all right, let's get this guy started. Let's start setting up. Let's get set up. Let's start setting up.
Okay.
There you go. And what's hilarious is that the bridge comes from the other gate. Poorly programmed because it's actually a little bit closer, so I just picked the closest bridge and decided to dock it to the airplane. Everyone's going to board through the catering door today. Oh, and this is not the first time I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen at a number of sceneries where, depending on how you're parked at the gate and what gate you're parked at, it will actually bring the wrong bridge over because it detects whatever's closest. And if you kind of go to the overhead view, you can see it's kind of a toss-up. But yeah, from where the front of this airplane is parked, this is actually closer than this.
I'm out for the walk around.
I think the better solution would just be to kind of move this a little bit so it's a little closer over here. But anyways, we'll just have to suspend our disbelief on this one today. All right, let's just get some light going on these screens in here. So last time when I was flying, Squibbly gave me quite a few tips about operating the 320. Among them is not turning on the fuel pumps until after the fuel loading is done. So we're going to do that today. We're going to try and keep in mind some of those tips. We're going to try and learn a little bit as we go here on this airplane, because I've read lots of things about this airplane, but at the end of the day, I have not read the manual from cover to cover. I don't know everything about this airplane for sure. So we're going to try our best to operate it in as realistic a fashion as possible. But if anybody sees a fault in the Airbus procedures, something that I am not doing correctly, please let me know. I'm always willing to take constructive feedback on how to better improve myself as a simmer, as a pilot. All right, so this thing is going to be a little bit conflicted when it gets going here, but what I'm going to do is I am going to load my self-loading cargo here. If I can find it, why can't I find it? There it is. Alright, loading up my self-loading cargo, and to go with it, of course, my FSU IPC, because I just was not ready for this flight today. I was trying to get the stream even started even before I was totally ready. Let's see, that looks good. And sound pack, let's do the American Airlines sound pack for today. Let's go ahead and start that up and see if we can't be off the gate in 25 minutes here. And one thing that is a little bit unrealistic about the FS2 crew, come on, bring up the menu, it's just the time they start boarding. For a 320, you definitely need 15 to 20 minutes to start boarding this airplane. So the fact that they start 20 minutes before departure is a little bit late in the game for a 320, I find. It depends on the airline, and some airlines could do it a little bit quicker, but FS2 crew doesn't actually prompt you to start boarding. She doesn't come in with the message until the 20-minute mark.
I'm back. No issues on the walk around.
window, so as soon as you're ready, you can open the doors and start letting the passengers on board. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So yeah, so we're going to set up anyways while we're waiting, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into the FMS here. There we've got our initialization, and actually before we can do that, why I booted up the tablet was I just have to make sure I load the flight into the aircraft from SimBrief, and then all of my initialization work should be good here. So we just sent for an initialization data request.
The security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
You know, 19 minutes before departure is when she makes this call. Go for it. Yes.
Okay.
Which to me is a little bit late to be starting to board a 320. Most people would expect a 320 is going to take at least 20 minutes to board, so it's a little bit late in the game, I think, for calling for boarding at that point. Alright, so we're going to start the boarding process in there. Self-loading cargo has been told to start boarding as well, so I can track our flight. And other than that, we don't have any ATIS today, but we can pick up a weather request here in Des Moines, so KDSM. Hit send on that and give it a couple seconds and it'll come back. And you know what I realized is that I don't even have my webcam up. And I'm enjoying my coffee, but there we are. Good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard, and yeah, we're going to get our flight underway here in just a few minutes. Yeah, actually looking like pretty good quality. This camera did an odd thing the past week where it suddenly just would not focus, and the sad thing is that the only way to get it to focus, and I had to do it over and over again, I've had to do it now twice or three times, is unplug it and replug it in. And what a silly thing to have to unplug and replug your USB device, your webcam, to get it to focus. And as soon as I did that, I plugged it back in again, boom, it focused, no problem. I thought it was, you know, I thought it was broken. I thought the lens was dirty. I thought something weird was going on, but no, it just would not focus until I until I removed it from the computer and replugged it back in, which is just odd. Otherwise, it's been a very nice webcam and I've enjoyed it, so what a strange thing. Anyways, that's long enough talking about something else. Let's go check our VATSIM weather here. All right, and really have to kind of hone in on this here. There we are. KDSM 1254 Zulu 310 at 15, gust to 20, 10 miles, few at 20,000, few at 25,000. -2, brr, cold this morning. 3025 on the meter. -2 and 3025 on the meter. So let's get that up on the meter right now. Just so we don't forget to do it later. And this one as well. The other thing we need to make sure we do as well before we get too far into the setup here is just set up for fueling here. There it is, fuel. And actually, first of all, we got to check out our OFP here. Scrolling right past it. There's the fuel plan. There it is. Block fuel in Des Moines, 72.38. This gives us 20 minutes of extra fuel and an alternate of Houston, I believe. So 72.38. So we got to set this to at least 72. And yes, I realize now, Squibbly pointed out last time, and it's Squibbly been very helpful actually, pointing out some of the stuff you can do here. You can slide this slider along, but it is a little bit difficult to kind of hone in on anything within, you know, about 500 kilos, or you can type in a value. So kind of like the sort of semi-randomness of having a value that I type in, or that I slide around, and I just sort of get in the right ballpark. And then we start our refueling. So the pumps are off. We are good to refuel. All right. And otherwise, we are good to actually start setting up this flight. So let's go ahead and go into the FMS here. And for some reason, actually, I don't believe my web server got connected here. No, probably because I had the sim up and running for too long. So let's just go to settings. And there it is. MCD connected successfully. Nice. Alright, and the whole reason I do that is just because I can zoom in here and I can show you guys what's on the MCDU, but I can type it on a keyboard, which is just that much more natural. So I've got the tablet here, and it's just easier to kind of type on the tablet and interact that way. It's not constantly pointing and clicking, and I get a sore wrist by the time I've typed in a long flight plan. If I can just find where I actually keep my A32NX. There it is. Alright, so let's go back to the init page. And so today we are doing KDSM to KDFW. I believe our flight number is American 2326. Oops, I put the wrong line there. There we go. American Airlines 2326. Cost index, and one thing I noticed, I do have my vPilot window open. We do have some ATC later on today, so that'll be nice. Kansas City Center's online, which is a good middle third of our route, so that'll be good. Once we get airborne, we'll talk to them. Let's see here. Cost index today of 25. And our cruise altitude today going southbound 36,000 feet. There we go. Flight plan. And I'm going to drag this on here. I'm going to try not to block the entire view today like I did on my last stream. Where I dragged it and I blocked everything and I wasn't really thinking, because I was looking at my tablet in front of me here. Didn't really think about the fact I was blocking it. So there's our flight plan for today. There's our routing for today. So we're starting off with the Des Moines VOR, DSM. Then we go to, or then we do Jet 25. So click on Des Moines, click Airways, and then J25 to get to Tulsa, TUL. Takes a little while for it to think about it. I have to search the database and make sure that the airway is valid and the departure point is valid. To Tulsa, that's good, and then after that we go direct to Claw for the Victory 2. So we can just do it this way. Arrival. Now our current estimate is that we're arriving 18 left, which would actually be 18 right. Normally you'd arrive on the outer runway, so 18 right would be the arrival runway. So we're going to do 18 right. We're doing the Victory 2 arrival. Scroll through the whole list here. And there's a lot of arrivals into DFW. There's Victory 2. We'll take Ickle as the approach transition, and Claw is our star transition. There's Claw. Insert all of that. And then there's probably a discon. No, there isn't. No, it connected Tulsa to Claw directly there. How perfect is that? Love it. All right. That is the flight plan initialized. Go back to the init page, page 2. And we can pull the ZFW either off of our flight plan or off of our weight and balance page, or we can just tap that 1R button right there. So just tap that button right there once. And boom, it brings up your weight, your ZFW, your CFG. You can pop it right back in there. Block fuel. Normally you kind of wait until you're done fueling, or you put in your planned fuel anyways. 6.9. We're going to fuel till we get to at least 7. What do we say? 7.4. Oh, this defaults to top every time. Oh, that's going to make it annoying to try and look through this. Alright, so 7.4 is the fuel we're expecting to see when the fueler's done. And last but not least, the performance page. And Squibbly criticized me for just putting in random numbers last time. It's all about it. It's all about his needs. So I'm gonna do something. I did find a takeoff performance calculator, and I thought I bookmarked it, but I don't see it here. So give me 1 second. And oh, that's what it was. Yeah. So I found this one here. It's pretty straightforward, but it seems to do the job. So you put in your airport, KDSM, put in your runway. I'm going to depart 3-1 given those winds. Runway condition appears to be dry, temperature -2. And our takeoff weight today, and again, just to get an estimate for performance purposes, I'm going to go back to the flight plan. And our estimated takeoff weight is 69.9. So we'll put 69,900 kilograms. And config, we'll do config 1, calculate. And here we go. So now we've got, it even has loaded the wind and the runway information for runway 31, and it's given us performance numbers here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those right in there. 34, 39, 42. And I'm curious. Oops. If this guy, oh, you know why? Because I haven't put in a flap configuration. Flap 1. I'm wondering if it's going to give me roughly the same numbers. No, not at all. 134, 139, 142, and flex temp today of 43. There we go. And that should give us more than sufficient takeoff performance. So if you go and search on the internet, there are a number of tools. I also found a spreadsheet that I downloaded. I couldn't really get it to work properly. It didn't seem to want to load the numbers. It kept on giving me a calculation error, but there's a number of tools. The 320 is a very popular airplane, so there's been a whole bunch of people that have published tools and put together stuff to what am I trying to say here?
Hi guys, here's the load sheet for you.
Plenty of people that have put together tools for this airplane because it's one of the most popular airplanes in the world. Thank you.
No problem. Have a safe flight.
Loads of 320 in 10 minutes. I find that hard to believe unless it's a half-empty load. I've watched many an airplane board, and very rarely does a full airplane get loaded in 10 minutes, not even at the regional level. Alright, let's see here. The refueling light is out, so we can go ahead and turn on all the fuel pumps now. Nice. We can do the engine fire test. Oops. Oh, I just pressed the button. Press the stupid gall-darn button. I don't like the way these lights, the way these buttons light up. It should be a lot brighter. Alright. I don't see anything white, anything out. Fueling's done. We can go ahead and turn the seatbelt sign on. Alright, and let's start pulling out some charts here. I do love that Navigraph now remembers my subscription login from one sim run to the next. I'm not constantly logged back in. That's really nice now. I don't know when that happened, but nevertheless, that's nice that that happens now. Alright, what else we got here? Alright, so we're going to depart runway 31 is the plan today. Before I get into the brief, one thing I learned from yesterday, 5,000 feet to top altitude on this, and 311. So let's just set 5,000 and 311. Did I do a departure? I think I actually did do a departure because it was such a simple route. There. Now we got it in there. Now we can fly it in LNAV mode. What was the other thing I was just about to look for? I hate that when you're thinking of two things and you do one thing and you forget about the other thing you're looking for. NOTAMs, that's right. Because what we learned last time was read the NOTAMs first before you make any plans, because we actually did the whole arrival briefing into Des Moines, and then after that when we went into the NOTAMs we saw that the runway that we weren't using was closed, which is good. But nevertheless, it could have gone the other way, and it could have been that the runway we were trying to use was closed. But no, there it is still. Runway 0523 closed. For runway 31, I don't really see too much. I see a lot of markings that are worn off and stuff that's being repainted. The parallel taxiway system for this, for runway 0523, is there. It's been worked on. I don't see any NOTAMs for SIDS at all. Okay, good. So we're good for that. Are you ready for the takeoff briefing?
Ready.
All right. So today we're going to taxi out from the terminal here in Des Moines. We are kind of at the north end of the terminal. It's a very short taxi out to runway 31. We'll go down out Foxtrot, down Delta to get to runway 31. No hotspots or runway crossings along that route. For the engine out procedure in Des Moines, there's very few obstacles around here, so we're just going to say it's runway heading as well. The SID itself is the Des Moines 1 departure, 10-3, 21st of May of 2020. Runway 31, climb on heading 311 or as assigned for vectors to assigned route. And actually what I should do is just come down here and just verify that this says, yeah, heading 311 there, so it is going to make me fly heading 311 until we get a manual light change out to the next fix. Yeah, climb on 311 for radar vectors to the assigned route or fix, and then the top altitude there is 5,000 feet. Maintain 5,000 assigned, lower altitude. Expect layers to fall altitude 10 minutes after departure. And there's a few notes here. Runway 31 trees, 2,500 feet from departure into the runway, 907 feet to the center line, and 977 feet MSL. It requires takeoff minimum, standard minimums for runway 523. It's a VFR day. We don't even have to worry about takeoff minimums. So we're going to get vectors around back towards the Des Moines VOR, which is just south of the field here, south end of the field, to get us en route down towards DFW, down Jet 25. Terrain is not a big factor today. 4,000 feet is the MSA north of the field. The weather is VFR. What can I say? It looks like a beautiful day out here. A little chilly this morning, but otherwise beautiful day. Operational. I have no MELs on the aircraft, and I didn't see any NOTAMs that really affect our departure process. The runway we're using is open, and that's what matters. For noise abatement, there's no published noise abatement. We'll just fly runway heading until we get to 3,000 AGL just for noise abatement, and then that's about it, I think. Yeah. Any questions? Actually, sorry, I should do this. Any questions?
No questions.
Before start checklist down to the line. Before start checklist down to the line. Hello. Before start checklist. Why is he not running the checklist? I can see the speech recognition here. It knows what I'm saying. Before start checklist. The heck. Some days it's very frustrating to try and use this system. Sometimes it gets to the point where you just want to reset it. Before start checklist. We'll just restart it here because it just doesn't seem to want to work. Not always the most effective system in the world. I like it in general, but it once in a while, more than once in a while, it kind of hangs up. And again, it's so much more reliable, I found. Before start checklist.
Cockpit prep.
Completed. Completed.
Completed. Gear pins and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On auto.
Are you sure about that? Adheres.
Nav. Nav.
Fuel quantity.
$7,400 kilograms. 7,400 kilograms.
Takeoff data.
Set.
Aero ref.
3025 set.
3025 set. Down to the line.
Alright. Give me 1 second, guys. I just want to check one thing here. Hello. Check. Okay. Alright, yeah, that doesn't seem to be working properly. I just was wondering if there's something I could tweak to make my microphone work a little better, but I just don't seem to find it, so that's alright. Alright, let's get the APU bleed air on. The APU is available. I had the screen up a second ago. Yeah, the APU is available. Alright, let's go ahead and take off the ground power. Alright, and I think we're just about ready to go, unless I've forgotten anything. Got a transponder code. Actually, let's do this. Let's make it 2000. Flight deck to ground. Did I not actually run Pushback Express? There we go. Sometimes it's good just to have a quick little shortcut button there. I love it. Look at you. Yeah, actually, I didn't put my webcam back on, did I? Flight deck to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
Let's just check this guy here, make sure he is done the loading. Balance. What the heck? Why? The door was not open. Door's still not open. It's somehow successfully loading. Well, self-loaded cargo seems happy, so that's the one I'm counting on right now. We will be ready in a minute.
Roger.
I swear I hit start on that, but I guess I did not.
Hi, Captain. All passengers are on board and doors have been closed.
Okay, thank you.
And yet it's still loading even though the doors are closed. That's okay. It's going to work for me anyways, because... Yeah. Alright, I think we got everything underway here. Let's get the pilot's life leg up here so that it starts itself automatically. That's good. Everything seems to be set up. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. Before start, check below the line. Below the line.
Windows and doors.
Closed.
Closed. Beacon.
On.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Arm doors, and
Parking brake.
cross-check.
Set.
Before start checklist complete.
We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Just select this guy here, because that's flying as the Neo. Should be able to start this flight. There we go. Perfect. Brakes released.
Pushing back.
Get myself in a better position there to see what I'm doing. Oh, I keep doing this. I was making a video of Pushback Express.
You are clear behind, and you can start your engines at your discretion.
And I switched to button. Oh, I'm not switching back yet. And I keep forgetting every time I run it. Well. Alright, said we're good to start the engines. Starting engine 2.
Check.
I don't like button mode. I feel it's much more awkward. The rudder, just because I don't have to be watching the rudder, I can just do it intuitively.
Pushback complete. Set parking brakes, please.
We know you have lots of choices, so thanks for choosing.
Brakes are set.
We're happy to be
Roger. Okay, the tow bar is disconnected and the equipment is clear. We will see you on the left side with the pin.
You are cleared to disconnect and go to hand signals.
Thanks. Have a good flight. See you later.
Bye.
safety instructions.
Alright. We're getting going here. Some of you may have noticed something a little different this morning too. Something that I was... yeah, it's a little bit interesting. It was unexpected anyways, but I recently received in the mail a Track Clip Pro over here. So I don't know how well you guys can see this because now I'm looking away, but the Track Clip Pro, unlike the generic track clip that clips to your hat, the Track Clip Pro clips to the side of your headset And rather than having the little reflective sensors, it actually has 3 LED sensors.
You'll find our full electronic device policy in the back of your American way. U.S. law prohibits smoking, including electronic cigarettes, at any time. Tampering with, disabling, or destroying smoke.
They're not actually LED sensors, I stand corrected. They're actually infrared lights, and they are much better for the track IR to pick up on. It's much easier for it to distinguish it from background light in your room, where I am in a room with it. Now that I've redone it, is much too bright at times and has too much background light going on. So, yeah, so I received this in the mail unexpectedly. I was not expecting it. For some reason, he started the setup flow again, so I don't want him to turn off the batteries or anything. But yeah, it was kind of unexpected. Starting engine 1.
Check.
And yeah, it's kind of nice because it gets rid of that big red hat that I was wearing before for a long time, which was it was kind of nice to have. Like it was an older hat that I had that I kept in my computer room, and I used it just exclusively for the track IR, and it was kind of nice to have that. But this is a little bit less obtrusive, especially for someone who's streaming all the time. It's a little bit less obtrusive. The only thing, of course, is that I now have red lights on the side of my face, so I still think I look like Locutus of Borg, but it's supposed to also be a little bit more powerful, precise than the reflectors, because the points of light are a little bit smaller. The reflectors were quite large. If I could just be permitted to show for a second here, but the reflectors themselves are actually quite large in order to make sure that they catch enough light to really kind of catch the you know, reflect what the track IR camera is putting out there. But of course that decreases their precision. These are quite small points of infrared light that are, again, they're just a lot smaller, so they allow for a little bit more precise head tracking than the other clips. So at least that's the theory. I haven't noticed a substantial difference. The one thing I have noticed is that I'm getting a lot less spurious returns. I haven't seen myself kind of losing the track IR due to sunlight and various things in this room. So I will say that that seems to be working better. As far as being more precise, I'm not. I understand the concept behind it. I just haven't noticed a vast difference yet. But nevertheless, it's nice to just sort of have it be a little bit less obtrusive than the hat. The hat was a little bit less obtrusive. I feel like I said, I still feel like a Borg with like something big hanging off the side of my face right here. But it was a pleasant surprise. So so thank you for that. That was quite unexpected. All right, I don't think that thing's gonna do any more boarding than that, so that's fine. We figured out that we're underway. Turn that to normal. Turn off the APU bleed and the APU, and let's get the show on the road. After start checklist.
Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
I cannot remember. Fuel prediction, that was the page. CFG 27.2. Up there. And set and checked.
Rudder trim.
0.
After start checklist complete.
Flight control check.
Ready.
Elevators.
Full up. Full down. Neutral.
Ailerons.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Left side clear. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
Alright, you got the taxi light on. Very good. Let's make sure we got the right frequency up on V pilot here. Easy there. Des Moines traffic, good morning. American 2326 is at the terminal, taxiing for departure, runway 31. Alright, very short taxi today. Get this show on the road. Squibbly, I don't know where you are this morning. I thought we had agreed on this morning, but it's okay. We'll just go on without you, I'm afraid. We'll have to catch you another time. But this is the one and only time I probably have to stream until next weekend, so next weekend we'll continue on with that next leg to JFK. Sock's pretty much almost straight out there. Before takeoff checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Captain receipts for takeoff, please.
Checked. Flight instruments.
Checked.
Checked. Briefing.
Confirmed.
Flap setting.
Config 1 plus F.
Config 1 plus F. V1, VR, V2, flex temp.
V1 134, VR 139, V2 142. Flexing 43 degrees.
V1, 1, 3, 4, VR, 1, 3, 9, V2, 1, 4, 2, flex temp, 4, 3 degrees, ATC.
Set.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff no blue.
Down to the line.
Alright. Just make sure my tracker is tracking. Yeah, we did get that tracker tracking. Yeah, I think we're good. Let's get out of here. Left side clear. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
Let's do truck or bus or whatever off the runway. Below the line. Before takeoff checklist, below the line.
Approach path clear of traffic. Takeoff runway.
Wow, this is terrible here. Trying to avoid that stupid truck. Confirmed.
Cabin crew.
Advised.
TCAS.
TARA.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
PAX.
On.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
That was the worst lineup I've done in a really long time. Oy, oy, oy. Alright, runway heading to 5,000. Alright, as Quibbly said, start the timer. Ready?
Ready.
Takeoff. Takeoff.
Check. Thrust set. 100 knots. V1. Rotate. Check. Thrust set. 100 knots. V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Flap 0.
Speed checked. 1,000 to go. Flap 0.
Set flight level 360. After takeoff, climb checklist.
Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Packs.
On.
Down to the line.
There was some weird stuff going on in that takeoff there. For some reason he didn't recognize the takeoff call at first, and then he suddenly recognized it. Managed, there we go, managed. And then he recognized it, so I made the call a second time, and then he recognized it twice, so then I made all the calls twice, which is kind of weird. A little disconcerting, but yeah, something kind of went a little off, out of whack there. And I also think that because I only ended up loading about 20 passengers, we have like ridiculous performance today. There's no way to instantly load this, which is a little bit annoying. If there's a glitch, which there was, it was told to start loading, and then it didn't start loading. I don't think there's any way to do anything about it. We are just going to be super light today for some reason. We're going to make a really good time down to DFW at this weight. Look at us, we're climbing at 2,100 feet a minute while we're still accelerating at 290 knots. Look, it's a bit ridiculous, and I don't understand why. I swear I clicked that button at some point. But anyways, live and learn. But there should also always be like an instant load option in case something gets messed up and you have to wait 20 minutes again for it to load the whole flight. Because that's a little frustrating. So there's some things about this that are kind of frustrating. It's great if you follow the whole flow through and everything goes according to plan. But sometimes things are not going to go according to plan. You're going to end up with you're just going to end up with situations that you hadn't planned on. Whether it be something glitched out in the weight balance, maybe you forgot to do it, and you don't want to wait the 28 minutes while it loads because you thought you pressed the button at the start of the flight and didn't. I'm all for, I guess we should probably reset this clock in the after takeoff checklist. I'm all for trying to create realistic time frames and sort of give that impression that things are actually happening. That's why I like self-loading cargo. You know, I get the feeling like there's actually people in the back that we actually have to be concerned with their behavior and everything. But at the same time, I don't know, it just, what am I trying to say here? At the same time, like, there's got to be bypasses for it, ways to get around it if things do not go according to your plan. Alright, so we're airborne. I think we're going to get into Kansas City Center pretty quickly here. Give them about 5-10 more minutes and then we'll follow up. Maybe about 5 minutes. We'll get them altitude, and then we'll call them up. A little annoyed that the plane is not as fully loaded as I thought it was. 28 people instead of 174. So yeah, the plane weighs about probably 3 tons, 4 tons less than what we had planned on, which is why that takeoff performance was just phenomenal. Like we were leveling off at 5,000 feet before I even had a chance to retract the flaps. We're already through 18,000 feet. Like, we're sustaining a ridiculous climb rate here. So that loading does have a substantial impact on performance of this aircraft. But we are on our way to Des Moines. The one thing I did want to talk about today, and I might as well get into it because there's so much to talk about. Of course, we all know that PMDG is getting very close. They say they're in the home stretch of releasing their 737 for the MSFS platform. And you know, there's really good news for, I think, all simmers out there that look forward to a really high quality airplane. And again, the fly-by-wire 320 is not that. It's not a terrible airplane by any means, and I'm not trying to belittle the developers the time they're putting into it. But just simply, when you've got a team like PMDG that has, that has been making aircraft for sims now for close to 30 years, approaching 30 years. These are some very experienced people that know exactly what they're doing in the civic world. below the line.
Aero ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff, climb checklist complete.
I'm going to just turn this down a little bit because I think that background noise is a little bit much now. But yeah, so they said they're in the home stretch. So one thing that I did see a link to, and I checked it out about a week ago, is that Robert Randazzo, who you all know is the founder of PMDG, is he did a long interview with SkyBlueRadio. It was about 90 minutes long. I ended up listening to it in its entirety. I didn't think I would. I thought I would kind of listen to a little bit of it, see what he had to say, and kind of move on. And as the more I listened to it, the more interested I got in it. I found it was a really fantastic interview. Not just from the PMDG itself perspective, because of course, you know, like I like PMDG and I like their products. I think they put out some great products. And I don't want this to turn into just a PMDG fanboy kind of chat today. But I thought it was there was so much kind of neat stuff buried in that interview. I took some notes even as I was going through it. As I started going through it, I'm like, there's some really good stuff here. But I really enjoyed it. Not just listening to him talk about PMDG, but also just listening to him as a developer talk about development, and even as a pilot, just listening to some comments at the end. Really kind of interesting to interview. So if you get a chance, I encourage you to listen to the full length of it. It is 90 minutes long. But I think it's well worth it. I listened to it. I ended up listening to a big portion of it while I was in the car driving to and from work. But like I said, I got a lot out of it. I enjoyed it. Kind of gave some interesting insights into PMDG that I wanted to talk about. And definitely not probably one of the most important, but definitely one that really kind of caught me off guard. Kind of almost blew me away when I heard it. You know, I just told you guys that I just had 2,000 subscribers to my channel. My channel, which has been on YouTube now for about 4 years or 5 years. It's been 4 years now. I've honestly lost track. Maybe even 3 years. But anyways, we passed the 2,000 subscriber mark. To me, that seems like a lot of people. You know, that's a good portion. And not everybody's obviously here every day. Not everybody's watching every day. But that's a fair number of people who think that the channel is useful enough to subscribe to it. What Robert Randazzo pointed out was that they had sold a large number of PMDG NGXus, which give people the $100 credit. And one thing he did emphasize was that at no time did they ever entertain not honoring this. So it's been a long time. That was originally, I think that was 2018 or something like that. I can't even remember when the NGXu came out. I feel like it was winter of 2018. Maybe it was winter of 2019, like just the end of the year of 2019. I remember it was the end of the year, and they gave everybody who bought it before the end of the year the full $100 credit, $99.99, towards their PMDG purchase of a 737 for MSFS, which was kind of a good deal for a lot of people. It got me to finally pick up the NGXu for P3D and fly that around for the last couple of years while MSFS was still kind of in development. And I was definitely not the only one. But yeah, the thing that really kind of blew me away was he stated that that money was what kind of got PMDG through this difficult time, through the pandemic and through the launch of MSFS, which has been a real challenge for PMDG because bringing their flagship product to the platform was really challenging. There was a lot of challenges with this new platform. They really believe in the platform of Microsoft Flight Simulator. They think it's a great platform, but it was definitely not without its challenges to develop within. It was not really built for good development right from the start. It was built more for the average user. And it's not a terrible thing, but it was not built with developers in mind early on. And that's been a bit of a difficulty for them to try and develop in this platform. Things have been shifting underneath their feet, but more than anything, debugging problems with the aircraft itself have been very difficult. And it kind of alluded to the fact that this was one of the most existential crises PMDG has faced since they started developing airplanes. This has been the longest period without a major launch of their product, and they've had basically almost zero revenue, other than the fact that they did manage to launch the DC-6 and bring in some revenue with that, because he alluded to the fact that once Microsoft Flight Simulator released, the revenue streams from just the occasional purchase on the P3D and FSX platforms went to zero almost overnight. As soon as Microsoft Flight Simulator was announced, sales within the next week or so fell by like 40 to 50%, and within a year, sales were down by 95%. They were basically not selling anything. Everybody's waiting to see what came out on the new platform. In the meantime, they still have costs. These guys have development costs, licensing costs, all sorts of other costs associated with keeping the company going. And it's been 2.5, almost 3 years, I think, since Microsoft originally announced Microsoft Flight Simulator. So it's a long time for a company to go without any substantial revenue stream. And again, the thing that blew me away was he actually trumped out the number. He said there were 8,900 people who had a $100 credit towards the 737 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. 8,900 people have that credit, have a $100 credit. So that represents just a little bit under $1 million, $890,000 in revenue that they earned before this kind of long dry spell without any publications that kept them going. And that's a lot of credit as well that they are going to continue to offer to the community. That they said that at no point did they even entertain the notion of reneging in any way on the credit or adding any extra restrictions on it. What they put out there, their word is their bond. What they put out there originally is what they're sticking to. So first of all, kudos to them for doing that, because I say kudos, but at the end of the day, it would be a flawed business decision to not do that. To renege on that commitment to people would leave such a bad taste in people's mouths that your sales would plummet. Without that, those 8,900 people would probably never buy another product from you again. Maybe not all of them, but certainly a substantial portion would take their money and go elsewhere. And not that there's a lot of competition with PMDG for that high level of sim experience, but regardless, I still feel strongly like companies should stick to their word, and yeah, I certainly have that belief, and I stick to my word with a lot of things. It's not always easy, but if a company has done well by me, I will definitely do my best to go out of my way to recommend them to other people and use them again. And likewise, if they've treated me poorly, I will not hesitate to tell other people how bad the service is at a company, why they should avoid it. And I've convinced people to avoid certain companies that I think provide bad service, not just in the aviation and in the flight sim world, but in general. But nevertheless, that number blew me away, that 8,900 people had bought the NGXu, and that was not everybody by any means. There's a lot of people who skipped the NGXu, who said, I don't want that airplane because I already own, I bought the 737, the version 2 for P3D. I don't need to buy the NGXu as well. It's not that different. There's a lot of people who kind of felt that way, that didn't think it was worth spending that much more money on the NGXu. So that just shows me the breadth of their market. I really did not think that their market was that big, that they're selling almost 10,000 units of a product. And over such a short period of time too, like that 8,900 people, they bought it during that short window. I think it was less than a month long. It was probably like 3 weeks long, where they had that offer. I just realized my flaps were in the wrong position there. Yeah, that's just such a substantial number to me. It speaks to the size of this community. So then, it kind of begs the question, first of all, how many units are they going to sell of the 737 when it does come to MSFS? Or maybe not even how many they're going to sell, but how many are they going to move in terms of people who have the credit, as well as people who don't have the credit and are going to buy it outright. So you're easily talking now 10,000 people are probably going to be flying that 737 within the first week or two of its release. I really did not think that the market for PMDG products was that huge. I can see it. I just didn't really realize it, I guess. I believe it, but I just didn't realize how big it could be. That's a substantial market. And to me, one of the biggest measuring sticks that I ever used in trying to figure out how big the flight sim community was as a whole was the Navigraph community survey, which I think last time was about 17,000 responses, and that to me gave a sense of the size of the community, but I think the community is a lot bigger than that even lets on. But at a minimum, there's 17,000 people in the community because there's 17,000 people who felt inclined to respond. And that doesn't even include other people who are just too lazy, who don't want to, or aren't that interested in the community, but still are flying enough that to do it. So yeah, it makes me wonder like how big the community is, and especially now that within the MSFS era, you got to think that the community's grown by a substantial chunk now that people have seen MSFS, people have come back to the sim perhaps that were out of it before, new people, maybe even trying it on the Xbox platform and then moving over to the PC platform once they see what they can do with this simulator. It certainly is an interesting time to be a simmer, and just again the sheer size of the market. I had no idea when Randazzo threw that out there. That floored me right there. All right, we are well inside Casey Center here. Let's get 2572. Let's get them up here. I'm surprised he didn't send me a contact yet.
Yep. Hurricane 769, I'll be closing here. Radar service terminated. Free exchange brood. Have a good one. 769, thank you.
And Kansas City, it's American 2326, flight level 360. I think we just overheard you say you're closing down now.
Yeah, we're closing down. Have a good one.
All right, thanks. See you. Oh, that was quick and dirty.
45 NGXu, you'll be closing here. Right.
So much for that. We almost had ATC. We almost had ATC. That's why he was in no hurry to talk to me. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Yeah, so I thought that was the first kind of really interesting, tidbit that I got of that, but definitely not the only interesting tidbit that came out of that interview. Like I could talk about this for at least a good hour or two, just about what everything that kind of got said during that interview. There was a lot of ground covered, a lot of different topics covered, and it was really interesting. So yeah, if you're at all interested in PMDG and their products, I highly suggest you go and find that interview and listen to it. It was on SkyBlueRadio. Just search for PMDG Interview or Randazzo Interview, and I'm sure you'll find it pretty easily. But yeah, tons of interesting stuff came out of that. They did confirm that this past week now, they were supposed to have a meeting and discuss what the actual release date and the actual pricing were going to be. And despite, I can't remember who was doing the interview, but despite the interviewer being very kind of pushy's not the right word, but he was definitely trying to see if he could break Randazzo and get him to commit to a date of some kind, or even a ballpark. And the only thing Randazzo would say, well, I'll give you a date, and that's June of 2020, which was kind of their original target release date for the 737, which obviously never happened. It was not for lack of trying on the interviewer's part, because there was he kept on poking and prodding and trying to get him to trip up and give him a date. And they, at the end of the day, they hadn't decided on a date. I think they had a kind of an idea of what they were looking for, but they have not decided on a date as of the time of that interview. They said this past week that just happened, they were supposed to have a meeting and discuss pricing, confirm the pricing, and confirm a release date. That being said, whenever that information does come out, it seems like it's not going to be a long-term wait. It seems like at this point they're very happy with the product, with the 737. 700 series is the one that they are releasing first. That's the one that they're working on right now. It seems like they're pretty much very happy with it at this point. They want to get it out there, and they've had a number of streamers trying it out, and a number of beta testers trying it out, and they've had their tightest embargo to date in keeping that product under wraps and not letting people see it yet until they feel like it is completely ready. That being said, they said that the embargo is very likely to lift in the very, very near future, and that when that embargo does lift, it's going to be X number of days until before the release date. So to kind of read between the lines of what he was saying, it sounds like probably when they lift that embargo and people start previewing it, it's going to be probably like 5 or 7 days before the actual release date, which makes me think that and it sounded like they really want to lift the embargo very soon. So it makes me think that the release of this product is probably less than 4 weeks away, probably like 2 to 3 weeks away, in all honesty. Like it feels like they really want to get it out there. They've been working on this so hard for so long. They're finally happy with the product they've got. They want to get it out in front of the community. So it seems like we're going to get some very good news very soon. And again, the thing they keep saying, they're very coy about the pricing, but they do say that people, they do think people are going to be pleasantly surprised by the pricing this time around. Keeping in mind that when you buy one of these products, each one of these 737s is going to be an independent product in and of itself. None of them are going to be an expansion pack. You won't have to buy one pack to get another one. You can choose which 737s you want to operate and buy those ones. If you want to buy all four, you can buy all four. The 700, 600, the 800, the 900, or you can pick the ones you want and buy those ones. But by the sounds of it, the $100 credit will probably get you, either get you 2 or very close to 2 iterations of this product. So, that being said, having listened to this interview, I would not feel remiss at this point, and knowing how much use I got out of that NGXu. Like, I felt I got my $100 worth out of it. I spent a lot of time flying that airplane. That being said, I would not feel remiss in spending some money on another version of the 737, and I haven't even decided like which ones I want. I definitely want the first one. I just want to be in it. I want to be in it. I want to get going. So the 700, the first one that's supposed to launch, I'll probably get that one. The 600, I don't know. I'm not inclined to say I probably will get that one. I'm probably more likely to get the 800, which is probably the most popular 737, and maybe the 900, which is also still pretty popular. I have not decided which ones I want to buy, but I can see myself buying 2. I can see myself buying more than 2. I feel like PMDG has probably earned my money again, and a lot of times you got to look at these things too, and like say, yeah, like part of me just looks at it selfishly and says, I just have a $100 credit. I want my airplane. But another part of me says, I want to support this developer. I want them to continue developing airplanes. I want that 777 in MSFS and the 47 in MSFS. I don't want them to stop at the 737 and say this is the last one we're going to do because we just can't afford to keep doing this. I want them to continue, so I want to kind of support them financially. So we'll all have to make that personal choice, but I have definitely not written off the fact that I may buy an extra one because I feel like they're a developer that does deserve mind you, their products were getting quite expensive, but they do put a lot of fidelity into it. They believe in their product. Like the depth of their product is just fantastic when you start looking at it. I think it will truly be one of the crowning achievements of MSFS will be flying PMDG products within this sim. But I'm glad that they're going to honor that credit 100%. I was a little bit worried after this long that there was going to be some kind of restrictions on it, so they were going to try and do something to kind of get a little bit of revenue with each one, with each unit sold, even if they had promised $100 credit. But at the end of the day, like, you know, this is not a big community. You can't alienate a large portion of the community, and doing that, reneging on a commitment like that, even if it has been a long time, and I think a lot of us understand that it's been a long time without revenue for them, and they've been in development for this product. Still, you want to honor those commitments you make. I think they'll probably be very leery about making any other commitment like that again in the future, but you want to honor those commitments you make to your customers, because people will remember. You know, I personally, I still will not, and I won't even entertain the notion of buying any FS Labs products. After that whole spyware debacle, it left such a bad taste in my mouth. I never will even contemplate buying one of their products, paying any money for it, or more importantly, installing it on my computer. They you know, that trust that we have in developers, we give a lot of them on faith, but for them to betray that trust, I don't think that anything FS Labs could ever do could rebuild their trust at this point. I cannot support them as a developer in any way, shape, or form, knowing that they willingly installed malware on, or included malware in their installers. It may have been targeted a specific person, one specific installer, or one or two specific installers, but just the fact that it was there, that it got installed and then was removed afterwards. If anything happened and it was left on there, it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. Yes, piracy is bad, absolutely, and for small markets like this, piracy can really kind of hit the bottom line. But to go and put everyone at risk, just, you know, to go and basically kind of say everyone's guilty until you're proven innocent, is no way to treat your customers. Put everyone in jail and then release the people that you think are not guilty. Basically, kind of like that's kind of the equivalent of what they did. They basically treated all their customers who downloaded their product as they were guilty until they were proven innocent, until they proved that they were not that person they were looking for. It's such a bad taste in my mouth. I'll never be able to buy an FS Labs product, which is a shame because they, you know, from what I've heard, that is a fantastic product they put out there, but I just cannot support them. I cannot support them monetarily. I cannot trust their installers to ever be clean ever again. I just can't do it. At no point will I be able to support them, unfortunately. So that is, it's unfortunate for them. It's unfortunate for me because I don't get to enjoy those airplanes. But you've got to also stick to your principles a little bit, I think. What else did Randazzo say though? Other interesting things he mentioned were just how hard the debugging and development has been in MSFS, and as much as they love this platform and it can do so much, the tools are still not there to support developers in a big, meaningful way. That they really are still marketing towards the consumer. They're trying to do so much with the simulator, and you know, they're trying to push more updates with improved clouds and weather, and all sorts of other improvements. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's still coming, but the developer tools have been very slow to sort of arrive, and that has been their biggest challenge. Basically, in the previous sims in P3D and FSX, when they were in development, they could literally pause the sim and either explore the variables that were captured in the sim at that moment and see what was affecting their aircraft. They could even on the fly kind of change variables, recompile the aircraft without shutting the sim down, and then resume flying and try and see if they had managed to fix a bug, you know, in real time in the sim. And said literally sometimes it could take 10 to 20 seconds to find a bug once the sim was fired up using those development tools they had in P3D and FSX. And apparently MSFS, those tools are just not available at this point. And the only way that they've been able to debug their product is to load up the sim, is to compile a new version of the product that basically dumps vast amounts of information into text files as the sim is running, with timestamps on them, and then recompile it, run the sim, try and recreate the bug, and then go to the text files and try to look at the timestamps and try to figure out exactly what the variables were at each point in time, and just try and track everything that way. And anyone who's ever done programming, I've done a little bit of programming, and I've done that from time to time, where I've just dumped variables onto the screen or into a file just to try and figure out where a bug was located in my code. That can be a very tedious process. Being able to do it in real time within the program and see where the step through the lines of code and see where the bug is coming in is a lot easier than just trying to see the output, and then maybe the output's not showing you enough of what you need to see, and so you've got to change it again, recompile it, reload it, rerun it, and then again sift through mountains of data trying to find the one little glitchy variable somewhere. The example he used, he said what would sometimes take 10 to 20 seconds to diagnose and try and fix in the P3D and FSX era could sometimes take 8 to 9 hours to diagnose and fix in Microsoft Flight Simulator, just because of how difficult it is to see what's happening inside the sim still. And that was their big complaint, and he said that's the reason why the development process has just stretched on, and why they are almost 2 years behind their initial target date, is because they just cannot, when problems do creep up, it just takes so long to resolve them. Like, that's one entire workday. What the heck? That's one entire workday to squash one bug, pretty much right there. So I can feel their frustration. Having done, I haven't been any kind of like a great programmer, but I have done programming in the past for various things, and trying to find that one little mistake that's crept into your code somewhere. and to try and do it by having to recompile your program, run it, and have it dumps all sorts of stuff into text files and goes through those text files. Oh my god, I've done that. How tedious. And in a product as complicated as an airliner, as an airline simulation, what a pain in the rear end, to say the least. So I feel for these guys. I feel for the amount of time it's taken them to get this product done. It really, kudos to them for sticking with it. I mean, at the end of the day, it is their baby. It's what they'd like to do, what they want to do. But it hasn't been easy. Anyways, Asobo has not made it easy. Asobo is aware that the developers are looking for these tools. They want these tools, that these tools be helpful. But again, it's a question of priorities. It's a question of what are they planning on, and a lot of the improving the visuals even more over time, the clouds and everything else, and fixing all the other quirks in the sim. There's a lot of priorities. So yes, the debug tools are coming. Apparently, they are going to be coming in to help the developers in the next 6 months or so. I think they said summer this year. They're hoping to finally kind of have them out there in a way that's useful to the developers. But and that was Randazzo's big statement, is that when these tools occur, the development is going to move from a snail's pace to a lightning pace. The next products to be developed in the sim. Because the question came up, of course, well, now that you've learned the sim and you've developed your first product for the sim, are the other products going to be able to come out faster? Are you going to be able to release the next? Is it going to take 2.5 years to get to the next airplane, or is it going to be faster than that? And the basic answer was that it depends on Asobo. If those development tools that they need, those diagnostic tools that they need, become available, then the pace of production will increase tenfold, probably. Whereas if they continue having to tweak systems and bugs little by little, then the production is going to continue at a snail's pace. The statement that they made as well is that a lot of the time, when they are kind of implementing new features and changing things, oftentimes they will actually program that into their P3D version of the 737. They'll program it into the NGXu version, test it out in P3D, where they can actually debug the software on the fly, and then only when they're kind of happy with it will they then bring it into MSFS and see if it works in MSFS. But they're actually often still using P3D as their development platform for writing code, just because they can get in and out of the sim. They can change stuff in the sim much quicker on the fly, rather than having to recompile and wait while the sim reloads, and try and debug through these text files and dumps of data that can just take forever to sift through. So it's going to be a real challenge for them. FS Labs have all their A320s, but yeah, I don't like the depth. Yeah, that I never had their products. I was kind of looking at their products for a while. I was sort of on the fence about it for a while. Looking. It's not cheap. They certainly do charge a good amount for their products. I understand they're good products, but they're very in-depth. And they're the kind of thing that's right up my alley. I'd probably absolutely love their product. But yeah, after that whole controversy with the malware, I could not. I just can't support them. I just can't, and it's a shame, because yeah, it sounds like their products are right up my alley. I like a really detailed, in-depth airplane. Yeah, at the same time, to me, it's kind of a principle. You have to respect your customers, and that whole debacle. I feel for them. I feel for them. Their product's expensive, and I'm sure they do lose a fair amount of revenue to piracy, but to treat all your users like that with that kind of disrespect just because you're trying to catch a couple of pirates, I'm sorry, but that was the wrong way to go about it. And I like I said, that trust will never be there. I would never even think of putting a FS Labs product on my computer for that very reason. You don't know what's in there anymore, and they broke that trust, and I don't think there's anything they can do that will ever build that trust back, unfortunately. Anyways, I'm trying not to rant about that anymore. One thing that Randazzo did also talk about and again, like I said, like this interview was amazing to listen to because it just covered so much information and there was so much kind of buried. If you started listening to him and kind of reading between his words, you could sort of infer a lot. But some of the stuff he just came outright and said. So the other neat piece of information that came out of it too was that apparently the next aircraft after the 37 will definitely be the 777 because it's already started development. They have started with some of the basic 3D modeling for the 777. So the 777 is probably going to be the next release after the 737. No time frame whatsoever was given or implied. It was really just most of our team was working on the 737, but a few of our guys now are starting to work on some of the initial stages of the 777. So some of the initial modeling, some of the very initial basic kind of system stuff I think is starting to come together. So it was they gave you the impression it was just very initial, but it is started development. It's not just like we're thinking about it, it has started development. So the 777 for MSFS has started development. It's probably going to be a while. I wouldn't hold your breath, especially again, depending on how Asobo treats those development tools and how much of a priority it is. But he did mention that the 777 has been started in MSFS. So hopefully it'll be less than a year until that one releases. But again, we'll see. It depends really on Asobo and what they can work out with their platform. But yeah, lots and lots of interesting stuff there. Talked about other aircraft too that they were talking about. So besides the 777 and the 407, what else is on their radar? You know, I mean, the DC-6 was kind of a little bit of I won't say an oddball, but it doesn't necessarily totally fit in with their normal kind of mode of operation. But it was one that was sort of it was as they called it, the vanity project. It was one where they sort of the guys got together and said, this is something we could probably whip up. It's not nearly as complicated in terms of certainly electronics and everything as a 737. So how can we do this? Can we put this out there? And yeah, the basic premise was, yeah, we could definitely put this out there without necessarily needing as much accommodation from Asobo, as much hard work trying to integrate it in the sim, because it's a much more basic airplane. Piston engines, you know, more straight wing aerodynamics. Just overall a lot simpler, very simplistic autopilot navigation system. So yeah, so that was one that they put out there. So people asked them, like, what else is out there? Randazzo basically confirmed that the Max is definitely on their radar as something that they're probably going to develop and release. It's not nearly as ready for release as say the you know, the 600, 700, 800, 900, but it is something that they're looking at, is producing a Max. And it sounds like they were fairly well committed to it. To hear him talk about it, other ones like they I don't even remember everything they talked about. I'm trying to recall now. It was about a week ago I listened to all this stuff, but they did talk about other possibilities. Trying to remember anything that they said out there. Of course, a DC-3 would be something they would love to do, because of course Randazzo has his own DC-3 that he flies around. Even a corporate jet, it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility. You know, I think they know their core market and they really want to kind of go for that core market and make sure that they've got the core market kind of cornered. But once they've gone past that core market of their Boeing products, what else can you do? What else can they do that they would be able to do to such a level that would be enjoyable for people? So I think the DC-3 is definitely kind of on their radar. Other Boeing products, probably not so much. I think they've kind of I don't know. I don't know if they necessarily feel like they've tapped the market to its limit, but I think at the same time, like a challenge, some other kind of challenge would be nice, like the Jetstream, where there was an odd choice, and they talked about how kind of the Jetstream product came to be, and you know, the developer, the not developers, but his other co-workers, if you will, in PMDG kind of brought it up as a, you know, this might be an interesting sort of kind of out of left field aircraft that we could have a little bit of fun with, and they didn't think he was going to say yes to it. And he's like, oh yeah, I've got about 100 hours in that thing. You know, we could definitely develop that. They had no idea he'd actually flown the thing. He actually had a type rating on the Jetstream. So it's sort of it was one of those things that sort of serendipitously came together as well. You know, we don't. It's not something that we would necessarily immediately think of, but everyone was sort of on board with it right away. I think in the FSX era they released a Beach 1900, and it was a bit of a joke the way it came about. That Randazzo went on his honeymoon, and while he was on his honeymoon, a couple of the guys got together, and they had basically sort of been talking about like doing the Beach 1900 for a while, and they said, do you think we can knock together enough of this that it's far enough along by the time he comes back that we'd sort of force his hand into allowing us to finish developing. And so they sort of took their spare time for about 3 weeks and knocked together enough of the code for the 1900 that when he came back and he saw it, he's like, if you guys want to finish it, go ahead and do it, and we'll put it out there, but I don't think that it's going to sell in the marketplace. And the funniest thing was that when they did finish the development, they put it up on the marketplace. It was the best to date. That was the best-selling product. It was the fastest-selling product PMDG released. They sold more units in the first week of the 1900 release than any of their previous products. So he admitted he did have egg on his face over that one. He did not believe that the 1900 was going to sell, and the market proved him completely wrong. So you never know what's going to kind of sell. Weird, quirky airplanes sometimes will sell unexpectedly. You know, the airliners are sort of a little bit predictable, but you take something a little bit out of the norm. You know, maybe like a Fokker F-28 or something like that. The ATR, I think, will do well because it's a good regional airplane. But you know, you kind of go in weird directions like that, and it's hard to predict how the market's going to react. The 1900 is not glamorous. It's not a glamorous airplane to fly. It's not what people immediately think of when they think of air travel. But those ones out there that require a bit more manual flying, a bit more of a challenge, kind of. It certainly holds my interest. That's why the DC-6, I really kind of like it. I'm glad I grabbed that airplane. It's been fun. It's a different challenge. It's very different from flying a jet, and it's got its own challenge. And I love to just turn off the GPS in that thing. I love the fact that they made the GPS optional, and you just throw the switch. The GPS is gone, and you have got nothing up there on the top panel. But you've got two dual VHF, VOR radios, and an ADF. And that's it. So VOR to VOR, ADF, that's it. If you don't want to use that GPS, you don't have to, and you just fly radial to radial to radial. I love that. As tortured and hard work as it is, I love that challenge. So you never know what's going to sell in this market. It's an interesting market. You know some of the stuff that is going to sell well, but some of the other ones, the oddballs, you don't know. Like I think the Concorde's going to do very well because it's a little bit different from most of the other stuff that's out there. Like airliners, they're a dime a dozen really at the end of the day. Like there's a lot of people putting out airliners at different levels. Slowly but surely, it's not nearly as big as the P3D, but think about P3D and how many airliners were available in that platform. Like pretty much every major airliner that had been manufactured was available in some form in that platform. And you knew that most of them were going to sell well. As long as you had a decent amount of detail to it, you knew it was going to sell well. I think about how many airliners I had, because I had all the PMDG products. I had the 37, the 47, the 777. I had the Airbus 320, their 330, and the Mad Dog, the 717. I did fly the Dash 8. You know, you just start adding up the numbers, and it's just like, and they were all interesting and unique in their own right. But I'm definitely looking forward to trying out the Concorde, because I think that's going to just be a very interesting, unique airplane. And it's a pity that it's not as much systems depth as you know, PMDG product, because it's such a unique airplane with such unique systems that the systems depth could make it very interesting. You know, they really kind of emphasize that they're modeling the fuel system, because the fuel system in that is such a crazy, complicated, convoluted system. It's probably one of the more complicated systems on the entire airplane. So interesting that that's been modeled. I'm looking forward to giving that a try and see if we can't do some cross-to-pond flights. So I would love to try do some cross-to-pond streams in that aircraft once I get it up and running in my sim. But just waiting for a few more weeks, waiting for one more revenue check from YouTube before I'll probably be able to justify buying that. But hopefully soon, and then we'll have some fun. We'll definitely do that on stream, and we'll fly that a couple times. I just want to see how we're doing here for our top ascent point, because we're kind of getting there. Let's see here, flight plan. So 15, 17, and should be approaching our topic descent point here pretty soon. There's DFW there, about 240 miles away right now, so we're getting there. We're already more than halfway there. Might be time to start thinking about setting up for this arrival, and then we'll be able to chat about anything else that comes up here. Unfortunately, we don't have any ATC in DFW right now. We do have, I'm just looking on the screen here, and Houston Center's online, but not Fort Worth Center, so just not lucking out with the ATC this morning. I didn't think we were going to have much luck of it. Could use some in DFW though. There's a bunch of airplanes inbound and outbound right now, so could definitely use some ATC if anybody's out there watching. But yeah, I think it might be time to start setting up. So let's do this. Let's get at least some weather here. So let's go. I just love doing it this way. It's just so much more realistic. So you send for it, and then you can chat for another minute with your buddy, and then at some point it's going to tell you that the message comes back. And I haven't figured out, there it is, company message. Sometimes it seems to pop a message up there to show that there's a new message, sometimes it doesn't. So let's have a quick look in here. No METAR available for KDFW from VATSIM. Well, that's useless. Really? Alright. Well, we tried. I'm going to try it just this way here. DFW. Must be some kind of a connection issue because I tried it in VPilot. VPilot seemed to find it just fine. Alright, so DFW, it is the winds 180 at 9, 6 miles in haze, view at 1400, temperature's 24 degrees. It was -2 in Des Moines, it's 24 degrees in DFW. Summer's finally coming here. Altimeter 2986. Alright, so let's set 2986 on here. Right, 2986 is set. I don't think I'm allowed to do that, am I now? Alright, 2986, 24 degrees. Whew. She is toasty warm today. Let's do a landing performance calculation here. So we go into calculator, landing performance, and the other thing we're going to need as well, so we're just going to need to know how long this runway is. I know it's long, but I want to actually, Navigraph. But I want to know how long because I want to do this calculation here. And while we're over here, we can definitely bring up some stuff here. Alright, so let's open up the charts, please. Alright, so we're on Victory. Victory 2 RNM arrival. We're planning an ILS to 18 right. There it is. And let's see the length of the runway here. 60-9. So 13,400 feet. Alright, so actually, I can do it this way. KDFW, I think. Alright. So, I usually do my calculations with calm winds, unless I actually need the wind. 2986 should be about... sorry, QNH was about 1010. Runway altitude... 700 feet-ish. 606. Call it 606 there. Get the performance calculation. 6. Wind conditions dry. Runway slope, we'll say, is 0. Landing distance available in meters. 4,084 meters. 4,084 meters. Approach speed, I don't have. 66,000 kilograms. I have to do full flap in this airplane because otherwise it triggers a warning and approach speed, so I guess we'll do it this way. So we have to get the approach speed first. 24 degrees and 2986. 86 or 89? 86, yeah, 86. So we're looking at a VAP of 130. So then again, if I come back over here, put in a VAP of 130, and I hit calculate, it's now going to show me where my braking is on this runway. So maximum braking will use 1200 of the 4000 meters. Medium braking will use 1500 meters. Low will use 2200 meters. So even if I use low, I've still got half the runway. So I think we're going to use low auto braking today. So go ahead and set low on the auto brake. We are not at all length constrained on this one. Okay. And then the other thing, of course, to put in the performance page is the actual minimums here, and then we'll just start working on this and making sure we're good to go. So the minimums here today, Cat 1, 807 feet. So let's put in 807. Oops. 807. There we go, Barrelman's 807, perfect. Alright, I think that's everything we need. Let's just have a quick look through the FMS, make sure everything is, all the constraints are in there correctly. So let's pull up the arrival here, the Victory 2. And we're doing it all the way from over here, from Claw. Claw, Gerbil, Bud, Font, 290. Between 2.4 and 2.6, so we've got 2.5. So the one thing I've noticed about the fly-by-wires 320 is that anytime there's an altitude window, it just always plunks us right in the middle of the window. Not always the smartest way to do it, but it certainly simplifies the calculation anyways. Star 290 between 20 and 22. Arbuckle. And then Cruth 270 between 16 and 13. Victory 250 between 10 and 11. Seaman 250 between 7 and 9, so that's 8. And then VAUP at 5,000 feet at 230 knots. That's all in there. And so the other thing, so our first fix here, font 25. So let's do this. Let's do it quickly because our VNAV does not really work. Top of descent. So target altitude 25,000. Sync with our current altitude. And we only need about 35 miles at a 3-degree slope. Alright, so we're just about to pass Claw Gerbil. So 35 miles back from Font is when we need to start our descent. So we're going to be there soon. So let's make sure we're ready for this. Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Ready.
Alright, we're doing the Victory 2 RNAV arrival. This is on plate 60-2 uniform, effective on the 10th of August of 2018. Notes, bold notes, radar required, RNAV 1 DDR GPS. Turbojets only. Aircraft should expect runway 18 right is what we got programmed in, and for use when operating south. Not the case. Our buckle transition is for that airport only. It doesn't apply to us. So again, we've got a whole bunch of holds over here at Font, Arbuckle, a couple places if we ever need them, and that's what all these ball flags are for. Sorry, not all these ball flags. The H's are there. The ball flags are for ATC assigned transitions only. But anyways, we just passed Claw. We're going to go to Gerbil. Bud, Font, again at 290 knots at 250. Woodstar, 290 knots at 23, correction, at 210. Arbuckle, Cruth 270 at 14.5, and then Victory at 10.5 at 250 knots. Then Z-Man and VAUP, and then after VAUP we just continue on that track of 090 degrees until we get vectored around for an ILS to runway 18 right today. And this should auto-tune. VYN 1119. Yep, for some reason it didn't auto-tune when we went to Des Moines, but here it is. It's auto-tuned just fine here for DFW. This is plate 61-10, the 12th of September of 2014. The final approach course is 176, and IVYN 1119 should auto-tune by the time we get to the airport. To glide slope at Netty, 2,400 feet. There we it is, NETI. It doesn't actually have it listed there. We'll double check that. ILS referred to minimums, so it's 807 feet. We did set that on the performance page. Touchdown zone at 607 feet. And just looking up here in the corner, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, there's the landing elevation of 550 feet. That's close enough. MSA 3,600 feet south of the airport. Missed approach is straight ahead 1,100 feet. Then a climbing right turn 3,000 feet outbound on a 250 heading and intercept the Ranger VOR 222 radial to Lights intersection and hold at 27 diameters and directed by ATC. BGSI and ILS glide path not coincident simultaneous approach is authorized with the 17s and MLSR and PAPIs on runway 18 left. It's got a 3-degree glide slope. PAPIs on the left. ALS F2 lighting system. It's VMC, so we should need to worry about the minimums today, but that would be 800 or 3/8 of a mile. Taxi in. For runway 18 right, so we're probably going to get off around Echo 4, Echo 6, and I actually don't have a gate assigned, so I should probably figure out a gate assignment before I bother to plot the taxi in, but we will have to cross 18 left before we can get to our gate. So let's just have a quick look here and see if I can find a similar flight. KDSM to KDFW, just using flight awareness. Simple tool, but it works so effectively. Let's see here. This morning's flight went to gate Charlie 16, which is going to be a long taxi around to get to Charlie 16, because Charlie 16 is over here, I think. So it's going to be around spot 37 entry, I think. We can have...
Nope. Checked.
Charlie 16, yeah, so we'll be looking for an entry around spot 33. So we're going to go all the way up over the bridge. So what we can do is we can just roll down Echo and then take the Alpha Bridge across Kilo up to spot 36 to get into Charlie 16. It'll be a long taxi in. No TAMs. Okay, first of all, terrain 3600 south of field. Weather is looking VMC. It's a nice day out there. And let's just get our heads back outside here as well. Let's see. No TAMs. Show me no TAMs. All right. That's Des Moines, DFW. This is going to take a while to look through them all, but let's just scan through them really quickly. Holding position signs. Incorrect airport diagrams. Interesting. New taxiways commissioned. Radio altimeters unreliable, so no Cat 2s for us unless we got the AMOCs. Let's see here. 18 right, approach lighting unserviceable, that's fine. Takeoff minimums, this is all SID stuff. Approach procedures, 18 right, anything for 18 right. I don't see anything, and I love that Lido bolds the runway number, so it's really easy to scan for. When you're looking for a specific runway number, you're going to operate off of one specific runway. You can scan really quickly through the NOTAMs. I don't see anything in there that's going to impact our arrival. So NOTAMs, nothing. The other thing on page 1, I just need to know how much fuel we need to get to our alternate. So alternate fuel, we're looking at about 2,600 kilos. And so right now we got 5,000. We're showing 2.3 and we need 16. So yeah, we should be okay. All right, there's Gerbil. Still a ways away, but basically in another 50 or 60 miles, we're going to start our descent down into DFW. And there we go. Any questions?
No questions.
Cool. All right. Working out quite well today. It's a pity I don't seem to have any of my entourage today, but what are you going to do? I thought we'd agreed on today, but it's obviously a little bit too busy for them this morning. Still hoping. Still keeping my fingers crossed we'll get the DFW controller on here. It's a Saturday, so you never know. Might get a DFW controller on there. Just trying to think if there's anything else interesting in the flight sim world that came on. Can't think of anything right now. Yeah, I've actually taken it upon myself to try and actually what am I trying to say here? Jot down some ideas for future discussions. Sometimes I find myself sort of struggling a little bit to try and find things to talk about. Actually, there's one thing. And see, now that I've looked it up, that's one other interesting thing that was mentioned. That Asobo, in one of their recent roadmaps, did say that they are bringing a radar and terrain API to developers. So it's been a little while since the sim came out, and one of the things that I think would be very useful to a lot of developers would be to have access to the weather system in terms of an API, a radar API, and a terrain API as well. So, you know, there's obviously a fantastic database of real-world terrain out here. And what we often end up with these airline developers is each of them ends up loading their own terrain database into the sim, into their own aircraft. Why could we not have a common terrain database that we can use and use the terrain information that's already in the sim? So apparently that is coming. There is no firm date on that, but that is something that developers will be able to integrate with their product, is the GPWS system. They'll be able to display terrain on their nav display once it's made available by Asobo, and ditto for radar. So they'll be able to have a radar depiction on the screen here that actually kind of resembles what's going on, and you'll actually be able to pick your way around storms. And that was one of the, I really enjoyed that about the PMDG products there towards the end, was they had a lot of those kind of features in there. They had obviously their own terrain database completely, and they had a full working GPWS system, which was great. And they also had radar that you could integrate with ActiveSky. So when ActiveSky was drawing convective activity in your sim, you would actually be able to see it. So now we're going to pass right by this one guy here. Keeps on kind of showing an up arrow, so we're going to just make sure he doesn't start climbing. He's about 15 miles away. See if we can spot him as he goes by here, and he vanished off the radar. Vanished off the TCAS, so I'm not sure if he's logged off or if the TCAS just stopped tracking him. Nope, he's there still. TCAS just momentarily stopped tracking him, so let's see if we can spot him as he goes by here. So he's 7.5 miles off in that direction. Only up. I see him. Tiny white light in the distance, but he's there. Probably really hard to see on stream. Oh, there you go. Now he started making a contrail. Nice. Makes it a little easier to spot him. Contrails definitely make traffic easier to spot. Of that, there could be no doubt. Alright, so there's Font, which is our first crossing restriction, and again, we said we wanted just 35 miles to get down there. So, yeah, there's the 40-mile range. Yep, got another 3 or 4 minutes and we'll start down. So, no real working VNAV in this aircraft, but I'm trying my best to sort of make do anyways. Let's see what that was. Just check out my VATSIM real quick here and see what that was. It just flew past us in the opposite direction there. If I can find where we are here. Where are we? There we are. JUS. I don't even know what JUS is. Jet USA is a charter-based cargo operator. It's right in the remarks of his flight plan. Perfect. JUS 726 is a 727. Cargo 727. See, and there's an interesting one as well that never made it, that didn't really make it with any serious models into MSFS. But that's one that also Randazzo mentioned as one that he likes. He's got a real thing for the 3 and 4 motor aircraft. So the 727 is another one that I think he would like to produce and bring to the sim. Whether or not it actually happens is a whole other story. But it's definitely one that I think seems to be on his radar, anyways. fortunately, that wasn't too long of a flight this morning. The next flight is we're gonna set alongside a large portion of the day, which is good because I actually have to go to work today. So it's good that this was a short flight. Normally, I'd try to say we'll do it next Saturday morning, and I think next Saturday morning is going to be a very good possibility to do it. I don't even know how long this flight is to get from DFW to JFK, but it's not short. Sim brief, give me an answer. If I look over here really quickly at my other screen, there's sim brief. Let's do a new flight. Let's just for sake of argument, I'm curious. KDFW to KJFK in a Airbus A320. We're going to need a fair amount of time for this next one anyways. Let's see, where's the Neo delivery? And I don't even care about plate numbers or anything. I just give me a ballpark. There's some really convoluted ways too. The stars for JFK really kind of require us to go a long way out of our way. But when you're doing a flight this long too, the other interesting benefit of it is that you can actually do some real world dispatching, if you will. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and set 210. Manage descent and see if it'll do something useful. 2 hours and 48 minutes of airtime. Not totally unreasonable, but that's going to be a good 3.5, almost 4 hour stream. So it's going to be a pretty long stream. But yeah, just the interesting thing about SimBrief here. If I go back one page here. Nope, not what I want to do. Let's try this page here. There we go. Nope. Never mind. So let me just show you here.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we have noticed, we have begun our initial descent down to our destination. Now would be a good time to wrap up any business you need to take care of.
So the interesting thing here is that the routings, because of the stars into JFK, you end up with some very interesting kind of convoluted routings. Pick the second one. It does that. If you pick the third one, it takes it way up here. So because the stars either come from the southwest or the northwest, there's nothing very direct from DFW, so you end up having to take some very kind of roundabout routes. But what this does allow you to do, though, is it does allow you to kind of say, where's the weather, and how do I avoid the weather? So this is not a good route today, so I would think this one is probably the best route today. You have to kind of go through here. You might even want to do something like kind of through here and up across here, something like that. But you can certainly spend a little bit of time kind of working out a dispatch. What you can do is you can also do, I love this, like, so if I put Meridian in there, and I try to find a route that includes Meridian, hopefully that should generate something that's going to take us around the weather. SimBrief is a surprisingly powerful tool, really useful, and you can do some really kind of neat dispatching with it.
Cheers.
Stop listening to me. So not ideal here, but it sort of gives you, actually, this is kind of a good start to get us into JFK. We could do something like that. We can change the SIDS and stars. Yeah, and we can even specify like which SID, which star we want to use, or which airways we want to use, and kind of construct our own route. So I don't like what's gone on here with the ZAC2 and then basket, so I would try and find a SID that comes off in this direction. But yeah, just look at this flight plan like today, this would kind of do a nice job of kind of taking you up through this kind of gap in the weather, and definitely the weather here is isolated enough that you should be able to pick your way around it. I would not want to go straight through this here. Wouldn't want to go straight through this line. So, and I would also probably change the arrival here to be the southwest arrival. So you could do things with it. Like, that's the nice thing, is you can tinker with it, and you can even see, like, basically almost in real time. You can just hit analyze again, and it'll show you another route. Use that in conjunction with like your Navigraph, and it's amazing what you can do. So you do this, do SID show overview. Aha. And now I can say, yeah, I don't want to be doing the SIDs that go off in this direction. This is like the ZAC2 in the basket or whatever. I want to be doing like this SID over here. So the Kuso 1 or the Dallas 1. So what does the Kuso 1 here? Where does the Kuso 1 take us? So the Kuso 1 could take us. See, the Kuso 1 does a nice job. It could take us over this way. It's it requires some vectors that first fix, and that's the only thing I don't like. I really like the RNF fixes here, so you might have to look through them and kind of find the RNF fix that best does what you want. But like this one right here, like this would be better. The Marsh 2 would take you in the right direction, Zalia, and then you can turn up towards Meridian. So you can kind of do your own self-dispatching and really try to find. Oh, there you go. It did meet the altitude constraints. Yeah, you can really kind of work to pick a route. So today is, you know, if we were doing that flight today with that weather, that line of weather out there, we would definitely want to find a better way to get there. You can't really see it today from here. It's not too far out of there. Let's see if I can just get rid of myself for a minute here. I have not yet done my standard. Standard screenshots here, so I can have something for my title card. Trying to find just some nice screenshots that I can use for my title card a little later. Without me all over it. But there I am again anyways. Alright, so it seems to have made these restrictions, so I'm going to go ahead and just give it all the way to the bottom. It's working at managed descent, so I believe it was 6,000 was the bottom altitude. Might have been 8,000, so let's just quickly have a look here. 5,000 actually was the lowest altitude, so 5,000, there it is. Alright. So it seems like this time we've got it a little bit better managed. A couple times I've done flights in this airplane and I have not managed them well. So the VNAV seems to meet the constraints. It doesn't seem to plan very well the top of descent point, but it does seem to meet the constraints, so that's good. I feel like we're not getting any ATC on this one today. Hopefully when we go all the way from DFW to JFK, we're going to be on there. We're going to be on the network for almost 3 hours. We should get some ATC. And I was thinking about that last night, because I actually had the opportunity also to do this last night, so I was thinking about, could the Friday night ops have worked for us? But at the end of the day, I don't think Friday night ops was going to work for us. It just was not enough. It just was not anywhere really where we were close to. I think O'Hare was one of the airports in Friday night ops last night, so we might have gotten some kind of peripheral Minneapolis control for our departure, but that would have been about it. So I didn't think it was really kind of worthwhile coming in to try and do it at night. So stick to the Saturday morning. It seems to work for a lot of people. It's not great for the ATC, but it seems to work for a lot of people. That being said, I don't seem to have an entourage today, so too bad. Next time. Alright. Coming up to Windstar. Let's just go right back to the flight plan page here just to make sure. Alright. So Windstar. Across between 22 and 23, looks like we're doing it. Altitude constraint, he's leveling off for the altitude constraint, so it does seem to meet all these altitude constraints. It is trying to level off and keep us above 20,000, which is good, so I've actually got it well programmed in this time. The last flight I did, not on stream, but just the flight I did the other day, my VNAV planning was completely out of whack, and I ended up dropping the gear at 250 knots at 13,000 feet to try and slow down, even though I had full speed brakes, and just it was way too high. Somehow my planning had just been way off. I had way underestimated the descent, unfortunately. So sometimes that's just what happens. I am a child of the gentle line in a lot of ways. I'm very used to the airplane doing a lot of the calculating and planning, and the second I have to start doing it myself, it's a bit of a challenge. I'm not used to it. It's not a bad thing, but I'm just not used to it. So make sure we're meeting these altitude restrictions and speed restrictions. The next speed restriction is cruise 270 knots, so it should be coming up here shortly.
Kevin, prepare for a run.
There was the... I'm not sure if that's... See, and here's the trouble now. Like, I'm running self-loading cargo and FS2 crew at the same time. Sometimes I can't be sure which one is is talking to me in the sim. It's a bit of a... I like both of them differently. The self-loading cargo is just neat because it provides all sorts of... It gives you the idea that there's actually people in the airplane. You look at the map of the airplane and it's actually got the passengers and the flight attendants walking around and everything. It is a little bit simplistic, but it can show you the satisfaction, who's satisfied and who's not. People are anxious. People are anxious seems to be the number one thing that seems to be causing a lack of satisfaction. Why people are anxious. I'm a perfectly good pilot. At least people are healthy. Bored? Nobody's bored. That's good. Few people are thirsty. Lots of people are hungry. Did we not serve them anything on this? One or two people might need to go to the toilet. Nobody's drunk at 10 in the morning. That's good. Eating, drinking, sleeping, using Wi-Fi. Almost everybody in the plane's using the Wi-Fi. Airline's making money off that Wi-Fi today. It's funny that so many people are anxious. And we didn't serve a single meal. I would have had a lot better satisfaction if we'd served a meal. It might be too late now because we're on our descent below 16,000 feet. So, anyways, I do like those kind of, like, it gives you an impression that things are happening, and just the delay for the start and the finish. Like, I do like that for the loading and the unloading. I like that delay because it creates a sense that something is happening other than what you're doing. And one of the biggest things in the airline industry is that pilots have very little control over what happens. It seems like perhaps a little bit of an ironic statement, maybe a little bit of a counterintuitive statement, but pilots have very little control over what happens in the airline industry. We control what happens from the time the parking brake's released until the parking brake is set. Outside of those times, very, very little control of what goes on. You're relying on a lot of other people in the business to do their jobs properly on time to get stuff done, and not always the case. Should be slowing to 270 for cruise any second now here. Very often not the case. People do not, whether it's because people, department's understaffed, or maybe the ground crew's running behind because the previous flight didn't leave on time, so they're still stuck in the previous flight. Ditto for gate agents. There could be any number of issues with passengers. Grooming not showing up on time between turns, or fuel not showing up. There's so many pieces that need to be put together for a flight to happen, and pilots have a little control of it. And I kind of like that aspect of things like self-loading cargo, where the loading is just sort of happening at its own pace. You don't necessarily know how fast it's going to load, how fast it's going to happen. The only thing you can do is basically control when it starts, and that's about it. Then it does its own thing. I like that even with the fueling too. Like, you set the fuel level and then you just hit refuel, and it just sort of starts doing it. It starts taking its time. Like, I like these things that sort of take time, and you hope they're all done in time for your departure. You hope. It's not always the case, right, FMS, with your weight and balance there. But that's kind of that's what you're hoping for, is that everything is done promptly. Did go to 270 passing cruise. Victory is 250 knots, so it should slow for that automatically shortly here. And never did transition. Hello. Transition. Set 2986. He's not going to do it. There's really no call for this in the Airbus, I guess, which is odd to me. Like, to not even just say, hey, we're transitioning, here's the altimeter setting, and remind the other guy. I find it odd that we don't have any kind of call for that. But yeah, a case in point of like the conflict between FS2 crew and self-loading cargo is the seatbelt switch here, which I thought, because I can't do it right, I can't do anything with it right now, I can't move it. I thought that was because, pardon me, I thought that was because FS2 crew was preventing you from moving that switch. But it turns out that it's not FS2 crew, it's actually self-loading cargo. If I trigger the seatbelt switch in here, it's supposed to trigger that. No, it doesn't do it anyways. But as soon as I shut down, I did a flight without self-loading cargo, and the switch worked fine. So I thought it was FS2 crew controlling the switch. I think it's self-loading cargo that's preventing me from moving that switch. So the trouble when you have so many add-ons running side by side is you kind of lose track of what's doing what. All right, there's 10,000. So lights on. Approach checklist.
Briefing.
Confirmed.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Seatbelts.
On.
Aero ref.
2986 set.
2986 set minimum.
807 feet set.
807 set. Engine mode selected.
Normal.
Approach checklist complete.
Checked. Yeah, when you have too many add-ons running, sometimes they conflict with each other and you don't even know what's causing the conflict, and that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. It's a little dark underneath this layer of clouds here. Like, look at how dark it looks under there. It's I really do like the way like light levels are captured in the sim. Like you fly through the cloud, it actually gets like dark in the flight deck, a little bit darker in the flight deck. There's so much of the visuals of this sim that are so well done. It's no wonder that like companies like PMDG were all over it for like this is the future. This is what's gonna be the future of our simming experience. I 100% agree with this. I think it's there's just some really well done stuff with this. I guess we disappear into the cloud. It's going to be interesting to watch. Like we got kind of a sunny side over here. You can see the sun and the shadows playing off the coming through the flight deck windows there, and then as we go into the clouds, the sun's going to disappear. It's going to become kind of a little bit hazier, if you will. Not hazier, but grayer, a little bit more ambient, a little bit darker. It's just neat, these kind of effects that happen here. Probably going to get amazing when it comes to this too, knowing us here. Where's our... Is that it? Oh no, TAT of 27. SAT still 15 degrees up here at 7,000 feet at the moment. But not surprising because it is pretty warm down there on the surface. But it would be nice to kind of see the radar up here too, and have it be able to see if there's any buildups in this cloud deck as we descend through it. Got to hit Seaman at 7,000 and then down to 5,000 for Falcon. And this is what's going to take us to the clouds here. Just heading down a little valley between the clouds here. The sun shining in, and then it just becomes an interesting kind of gray gloom, but it's such a realistic depiction. And now you'll notice that like the screens look brighter because overall the flight deck itself has gotten darker. A lot of this stuff is the ambient lighting is really well done in this sim. They've really kind of captured that quite well. I'm very happy with that. They've done an excellent job with some of this ambient lighting in the sim. The white, the kind of darker gray below. You're starting to see a little bit of something there. We're starting to break out the bottom already here. It's not a very thick layer, at least. The altitude for Nichols. So, see that in a minute here. DFW traffic, American 2326, 25 miles north of the field at 5,000 feet, planning an ILS 18 right. Alright, so we're level at 5,000, we're supposed to cross Fountain at 5,000. And then what we'll do is we'll do direct to Yeoman. I don't see anyone else coming here. Johan. Direct to Johan. Oh, why is the speed limit being exceeded? I didn't notice that it's switched to manual speed mode. That's alright. Now it's way too bright. And we need to be at 4,000 for Yeoman, so let's get 4,000 in there. Do it at open descent, and then once the speed comes back, we'll go down to 4,000. And we might as well arm our approach. Oh, too far back. Not allowed to arm it yet. It's kind of dreary down here in Dallas today. Warm but dreary. Alright, so we got a little under 10 miles to go. Should see the localizer pop in there shortly. But this is one of those approaches that also has like a really long final too. So we might even be too far to actually receive that localizer. But that's fine, we can just track the LNAV inbound until we get the localizer up. So nope, not gonna let me arm the approach yet, that's fine. Yeah, 20 miles back, we should be getting that localizer here by the time we turn final near Yeoman there. Kind of popping out again. Here's some urban areas of Dallas there. Alright, so we got the speed back to 210. It's 4,500. I'm going to stop yakking so much because I'm going to start actually concentrating on flying here and talking to this guy here. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Looks like the localizer's alive there, so now approach mode is armed. So we got loc armed, glide slope armed, Cat 3 single. We don't need Cat 3 anyways, but it's actually kind of a little bit fun today. You actually can't. We're going to see a little. We are going to see the field, but it's kind of fun being in and out of the clouds here. It's not just always being straight up VFR. But I just love the challenge of just like, let's just do whatever is happening this day. Whatever the conditions are today, we're going to deal with it. That's why, like, especially that flight to JFK, we're getting to that time of year where we're going to have thunderstorms. There's a good chance we're going to have a similar line of thunderstorms when we go from DFW to JFK. There's Lodestar. Glide slope's alive. Glide slope alive.
Checked.
Flaps 2.
Speed checked.
Deploy that next set of flaps before we can start down the glide slope. That way it helps control our speed, but we are so light today because
Flaps
of
2.
loading it upward properly. It should not be much of an issue. Glide slope star. I honestly can't remember what the missed approach altitude was. I briefed it. 4,000 is probably correct. Let's just pull it up. Just thinking about it. Oh, 3,000. No problem keeping 180 to netty today. But often when it's VMC, that's what they want. They want 180 knots till the final approach fix in America.
2,500. Altimeter alive.
Checked. Checked. Gear down. Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Set speed 140. Set speed 140. Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
Landing checklist.
Cabin crew.
Advised.
Auto thrust.
Speed.
Auto brake.
Low.
Checked.
Low.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
Check. Speed 122 set. There comes some runways now. She is pretty hazy down here, it's true. Alright, disengage the autopilot. Knock thrust over there. Checked.
Pitch.
100 above. Minimum.
Check.
200. $100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 5.
That was a very bad approach at the end of the day. Started out so well too. And as soon as I knocked that thrust lever by accident, I just put my hand on it. I just totally messed it up after that. Gained a whole bunch of speed, threw the autopilot on somehow. I don't even know how I threw the autopilot on.
70 knots.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the aircraft has arrived.
Well, that was not the best approach I ever did.
You are reminded that
Got
all
here safely.
electronic devices should remain turned off until you are in the terminal building. Thank you.
Just bounce that one. Disarm the spoilers. And that triggers the after landing flow for FS2 crew. Looking for Alpha to get across here, so it's going to be a couple of spots down here. DFW traffic, American 2326, clear of 18 right, crossing 18 left. Well, that wasn't the best landing I ever did. We're going 42 knots here. Probably should get this a little bit under control. Alright, so Alpha's going to be roughly past the end of the terminals here. That's why, 'cause I thought they were in idle. They're not in idle. That's why we keep on picking up so much speed here. Riding the brakes all the way down here. This is going to be Bravo and Alpha here. Just get across the other runway. little bit messy. I was not happy with that approach in total. Like, it was good until I accidentally hit my thrust levers. And then somehow I didn't even notice the autopilot was back on. And that's why I was sitting there trying to trim it and fly it, and it was not reacting to me. I don't even know. I think something I said triggered the autopilot. I have a feeling that something I said triggered FS2 Crew to put the autopilot back on. And I don't tend to mute when I'm on approach because I want the guy to listen to me. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
Strobes on. DFW traffic, American 2326 is clear of runway 18 left. After landing checklist.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Spoilers.
Disarmed.
APU.
Start.
Radar.
Off.
Predictive wind shear system.
Off.
After landing checklist complete.
Now the one thing about this airport, and nobody's captured this really well in the scenery, is that the bridges here at the north and south end, so the Alpha Bravo Bridge and the Yankee Zulu Bridge at the north and south end of the airports here, they go up a long way. Like the taxiway, you actually go up a long way to get over them. Did you see that truck flying through the air? Microsoft? Asobo? Hello? But yeah, like, and they modeled these bridges, but like, you actually go up like a slope, like a good like 10-degree slope. Those bridges are probably about like 30 feet up in the air over the roadways. They're quite tall, and nobody's ever really captured that in a sim. It's a bit of a shame, but did I ever get that strobe back off? I did not. There we go, strobe's back off. Because it's an interesting kind of quirk of DFW, and I'll try and find a picture in a minute when we get to the gate here. But yeah, the bridges are, you go up quite a long way to get over the bridge. And that's one thing that, like, I wish that these developers would start to do a bit more than they do right now. Is these
cockpit prep.
What are you doing now? Is these airport slopes, because there's a lot of airports where the slopes are very distinctive and they create a large they're a large impact on that character of the airport. And DFW is one. There's actually, it's quite a long upslope. These whole runways here, like the south end of the field behind us there is quite low. It's about 50 feet lower than the north end of the field, maybe more. So those bridges should have a big slope to them. We should be slowly moving uphill, and it's a challenge to operate airplanes and taxi airplanes sometimes in these hilly airports where you need a lot of power to kind of get going to go up a hill. You need a lot of brakes to control when you're going back down a hill. These are real challenges real pilots face all the time, and they're not well modeled in most of the sims. Most of the sims, they model these airports as flat as a pancake as far as the eye can see, and that is not the case at all in DFW. Also coming over Quebec taxiway, coming if you've landed on the very outer runway there, 17 left, Quebec, huge hill, up and down. And it's not something that's well modeled by almost any developer. Very rare as a developer. Atlanta's another one where the hills are crazy in this airport, and yet every developer I've seen that models it flat as a pancake. The only place I've ever seen much modeling at all was Fort Lauderdale has a runway with a slope on it, and Let VFR did an excellent job of kind of representing that. Most developers, they just get very lazy on this, I think. I'll acknowledge that's not easy. I'll definitely acknowledge that it's not easy to model a sloping airport, but that is huge to the what am I trying to say here? Like I said, like, it's huge on to the character of the airport in some cases. A lot of airports, the slope of these airports is a huge part of the character, and it's weird when it doesn't exist. And I'm not terribly surprised that Microsoft doesn't do it, but some of the other developers that have done like independent, like Atlanta especially is one that just strikes me as like, wow, there's an airport. Like it is literally an airport where single engine taxi is almost not a possibility in a lot of aircraft just because of the degree of the slope. Okay, there we go. I do see some taxiway signs there. 21, so we're looking for 16, Charlie 16. The amount of slope, like at certain airports, Atlanta is one where the slope is huge, and I don't necessarily always expect the default, the Asobo airports to cover it, but definitely the anybody who's actually making a payware airport, it should be huge for them to really try and emphasize these slopes, because they're a huge part of the character of the airport. Why is there like 3 bridges at this gate? I'm a little bit worried the wrong bridge is going to dock here. Anyways, here we are, Charlie 16. Taxi light off, no marshaller in sight, so we're just going to do the good old self-marshal. That's something else I'm so looking forward to someday soon, is GSX and getting marshallers back. Why do I still have lights on? Turn off lights. There we go. We're here. Love it. Alright, let's get that. Shutdown checklist. I love the bridge deploying automatically too. That's fantastic. Parking checklist. Parking checklist. Parking checklist.
APU bleed.
On.
Engines.
Off.
Seatbelts.
Off.
Exterior lights.
Nav logo. Nav logo on.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking brake and shocks.
On and in.
Parking checklist complete.
Nice. Alright, and we're done. Let's just check it out. There we are. And it's done. We've cycled on to the next leg. DFW to JFK is next. Hopefully next Saturday morning. We'll see how that goes. I can't make any guarantees about it at this point, but we'll certainly think about it. But yeah, there we go. And I do like when things happen automatically. It is a dreary day here at DFW. This is really kind of gray and dreary. Nope, now it's bright and sunny. Suddenly the weather shifted. Just because I said something. I do like that the bridge deploys automatically when you're using FS2 crew or self-loading cargo. Those kind of things, like, I do appreciate that, like, you know, you can't do everything automatically, but there's a certain amount of things that should kind of happen automatically. Like I said, pilots don't have a whole lot of control over what happens, especially what happens outside of the airplane. Things like jet bridges and fuel trucks and catering and baggage loading and all that stuff. So I do like an automated system that kind of, like, as long as you park to the gate, you shut down your engines, set the parking brake, then it triggers these things to happen automatically. I like that. I like that a lot because that's the way it happens in the real world. I'm not saying you can't have people have the option to sort of point, click, and do things manually as well, but to me that is the immersion too, is a lot of these things you need to be in the right place at the right time, in the right configuration, parking brake set, engines off, boom, here comes the bridge, here comes the baggage loaders, everybody gets off the airplane. I like those kind of immersion things, and I wish more developers would kind of do those things as well, because I find that a lot of people, you know, they want you to point and click your way through just about everything. And that's what I like about FS2 Crew, is that it's not point and click your way through everything. Talk to the airplane, and the script advances based on your conversation with the airplane. Of course, talk too much, and the script gets confused and goes to other places and does the before start check instead of the parking checklist. But I do like that. Anyways, here we are. We've made it to DFW, And yeah, that's another leg of a pilot's life done. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I didn't rant too much about PMDG, but I felt like there was a lot of really neat stuff in that interview. I felt like it was really, I certainly learned a lot. I felt like it was well done. It was a lot of good, good questions asked. A lot of coy answers provided, but I felt like I definitely learned something about the way PMDG operates. I feel like I have a lot better sense of where they are right now and where they're kind of going to, which is great, because I think they turn out a lot of good products for Flight Sim, and I want to operate their products. So I'm looking forward to that 737. You know, it's going to happen before we know it, and then we're going to, instead of operating the 320, we're going to be taking that 737. We're going to be using it, trying not to crash my computer. I'm going to need to probably invest in a new video card sometime soon, because that 737, they've said the performance is not too bad with it. That's been the general word, is that they're happy with the performance. That being said, my computer is definitely getting a little long in the tooth. My video card, anyway, is getting a little long in the tooth. I think it's coming up on 10 years old or something along those lines. So it works, but you start to put like a really heavy-duty airplane in there. I'm not sure if it's going to keep up, if it's going to be able to keep up with the graphical detail and with the kind of information that needs to be processed. So I'm not really sure if in the long run it's going to be viable, and whether or not I'm going to need to try and start looking for a replacement. But added to the list of things that I don't have the money to spend right now. But hopefully one day we'll move on to a better video card and be able to operate the sim with even smoother graphics than it does right now. And I still like it. It's still not bad, considering the amount of stuff I've got kind of running simultaneously here with streaming and everything else. I'm still maintaining a decent frame rate. When I don't stream it, it's even better. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting that 737 in this sim though soon. And by the sounds of it, it's going to be very soon. And we should hopefully be very happy with the pricing as well. So anyways, I think that's it for me for Saturday morning. I hope you guys have had fun. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go spend some time outside. Enjoy the nice weather while it's here. And we'll see you guys all real soon for another stream here on Twitch. In the meantime, have a great weekend.
Southwest 10 departing runway 13 left.